For enrichment, we're going to look at the names of molecules. Number 1 has already been done. Number 2, if we look at this, we know that bromine, Br2, means that this is the elemental form. That's because bromine is one of the magnificent 7 that exists as diatomics in their natural state. Therefore, the name of this is just going to be bromine. So let's look at number 3. Number 3 is NH3, and this has a special name, ammonia. This compound, ammonia, is named for the Egyptian god Ammon. It was at his temple that they extracted the salt, and so they named it ammonia. So this one just has a special name, just have to know it. Number 4. This is a salt, and you should know how to name salts. We always start with the metal first, so calcium. And then we do the second non-metal, but we change the ending to ide. So this would be oxide. For number 5, here's the structure, CH2Cl2. So when things are being named in chemistry, a lot of times they look at repeating groups and they look at what are known as functional groups, which are groups of atoms in a molecule that dictate what they do chemically. So here we have 2 chlorines and these 2 hydrogens that are attached to the carbon. Many molecules are made up of lots of carbons or different amounts of carbons. Therefore, a lot of naming conventions for our molecules are based around how many carbons there are. If you have 1 carbon, that's known as methane. If you have 2 carbons, this is known as ethane. If a molecule has 3 carbons, this is known as propane. Maybe you've seen that before. Grill with that type of gas. If it has 4 carbons, that's butane, and so on and so forth. So when we're naming molecules, we look at the amount of carbon and we either use that as part of the name, or oftentimes it's changed to methyl, ethyl, propyl, butyl, things like that. So we need to put 2 things into the name here. Something that tells us how many chlorines there are and something that tells us how many carbons there are. In naming, there is a prefix that tells you how many there are. So mono is 1, di is 2, tri is 3. So there are 2 chlorines, so that's going to be di. And the name gets changed. It's not dichlorine, they make it dichloro. And then the second half of the name tells us how many carbons there are. There is 1, so this will be dichloromethane. Let's look at number 6. Number 6, again, we need to make note of the 2 things that are going on here. For the one hand, we have the carbon, kind of here. On the one hand, we have the carbon. And on the other hand, we have this OH group. It looks like a hydroxide. On the one hand, we have our carbon and hydrogens. On the other hand, we have this OH group. So we need to name both of those. So first, we have our methane group. But because we're going to name our methane first, we're going to make that methyl. And the second part of the name, we'll name this part here, and this is a functional group in organic chemistry that is known as alcohol. So this will be known as methyl alcohol. The methyl denoting this first part here where we have a carbon, and the alcohol denoting the second part here. If you had 2 carbon chain, like so, it wouldn't be methyl because we have 2 carbons, it would be ethyl alcohol.